Greetings, Internet friends. This is AJ here with another edition of Oddities in 2D. This time around, we're going to discuss an NES game that was announced, canceled, and almost lost to time, but it somehow managed to come back and get released into the world. It's a very odd game. Hey, I guess that's probably why it's being featured here. So, this game is called Bio Force Ape, and it has a storied history, to say the least. The game was originally presented to the U.S. in the Summer CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, in 1991, and it actually made it into an issue of Nintendo Power later on that year, where they gave some of the gameplay details, and they let everybody know that this was a super-powered chimpanzee that could beat up enemies with pro wrestling moves. Sounded like a pretty strange thing. But later on, the following year, the game was canceled, and that was the last anybody ever heard of it. But throughout the years, people have uncovered and discovered some of these older games that had been discussed, and people have managed to find prototype cartridges and dump them out so people can play the ROMs. There's a handful of games that have been re-released as physical cartridges. But this one originally started out as a hoax. There's a guy on a digital press message board who was actually one of the regulars, but he disguised his name and said that he'd come across a prototype of Bio Force Ape. Of course, this got everybody up into a fervor because this is a long-discussed game. Some people didn't even believe the thing existed. But he said, hey, I found this. I don't really know what it is. And he started posting screenshots. Those screenshots being kind of washed out, fuzzy pictures taken with a camera and a television. And he kind of described the gameplay, which sounded like the same sort of gameplay that was described in the Nintendo Power article. And people, were arguing back and forth. Is it real? Is it not real? Should he sell the game? Should he dump the ROM? All this kind of stuff. He eventually put up a picture of an image from a cutscene with the now infamous "Eat Communism" line, which is pretty silly, but it didn't really stop people from arguing the case of it being real or not. He even posted an image of the Bio Force Ape farting so hard that he was blowing the pixels apart on the screen. Not really sure what that's about. So the hoax officially ended when the original poster put up a picture of the prototype cartridge, smashed into little pieces, and said, nope, that's it, and whether you believed it or not, that was sort of the end of it. That was back in 2005. Well, in 2010, an auction came online that was saying that it was a prototype cartridge of the game. The guy put on there, here's the cartridge. It looked, it was a black cartridge with a little label on it. And there's a screenshot to go with the game. And so, once again, the discussions kind of came back online. The original poster actually got some money together, purchased the game, and then kind of played another trick on people. He put a picture of the game being shipped, and he had a picture of the box open and the cartridge crushed inside, so he got another laugh in on everybody. But it turns out the cartridge was real, it was not damaged in shipping, and he was able to dump the ROM out and put it out there for everybody to play. So it's available now. You can actually go and download it and try it out for yourself. It is not available as a physical cartridge, so the only way to play this game is through an emulator. But it's well worth checking out because it is a strange game indeed.
So at the start of the game, the guy dressed in green kidnaps the family, tosses them in the back of the van, and he kicks the chimp away, and as he's laying on the ground, he drinks some sort of potion which transforms him into the Bio Force Ape. And if you didn't see that, we'll run that by you one more time. They don't give you too much of a chance to see the intro. I'm sure if there'd been an instruction manual, you'd see a little bit more. So, family's kidnapped, he gets transformed, and then he's off and running, ready to take down the bad guys. We start out on the rooftop. The bad guy's got the little girl, and the sumo wrestler just punches you right off the side of the building. And the Bio Force Ape, just falls and flails, and for stories and stories. And hey, he's A-okay. He's ready to go. And there's our first guy in a bumblebee suit, and yeah, there's our first wrestling move. Elevator goes super duper fast. The animation scrolling in this game is lightning quick. One of the fastest scrolling games on the NES. And of course the Bio Force Ape has a lot of just fun little animations. I mean, flailing around, falling. You have all of these elevators and platforms that just launch him along at ludicrous speeds. You can see his running speed is even really fast. he's fighting ninjas, and I mean he's kicking them so hard they're flying off the side of the screen. And the ninjas, I mean, those are some of the few like normal type enemies in the game. Most of the enemies you face are like this guy here. This is a guy in a kangaroo suit. So he's kicking, like he's standing with the tail, and he's punching out of the hole, out of the pouch. I mean, it'd be one thing to fight a kangaroo since you're the Bio Force Ape, but yeah, check this out. Swing the guy, flies off the screen. So the wrestling moves are a lot of fun. It's kind of like a lot of games. You kind of work them down with kicks and punches, and then you're free to do a number of moves. Different enemies are impacted differently. You can do certain moves on certain enemies. You can do like pile drivers and neck breakers and all this kind of stuff. So, and as you run, I mean, once you do a wrestling move, they kind of fly off, and that's the end of them. So the platforming is kind of okay. It's because your guy moves so quickly, it's hard to do some of the precise jumps and things that you need to. So it can be a little bit difficult to get around the environment. Of course, it's real easy to overshoot a platform by accident, or to fall down to another area of the level if you don't mean to. Hey, we got a little vine swinging here. What else would you have? And there again, of course, he flies off the thing at lightning speed. It's also a little bit easy to get turned around in some of the levels. It's not always easy to tell where you're going. There is a map. If you hit the pause button, you can look at a map. It just kind of gives you a rough outline of where everything is, but it's still kind of difficult to see where you need to go. So let's skip ahead a little bit. This is toward the end of level 1. We've got another long falling sequence, and as you can see there again, the Bio Force Ape can fall as far as he wants to. We got a couple humorous sequences here where he hops into these elevators and he's fighting because he's like, I don't know what to do. Elevators, how do they work? Some of the elevators go left and right and up and down because they have really good elevators in the future. So here you get to finally face off against the sumo wrestler. When he appeared in the beginning of the game, that was a cutscene you couldn't actually control, or you couldn't fight him or anything like that. So now you get to punch him and kick him and get him back. And once you dizzy him, you grab him by his fat rolls and chuck him off the side of the screen. So a good, satisfying way to beat a sumo wrestler. So now we're going to face off against the bad guy in the green because he's got the little girl. See, she's kicking him in the shins there, and he's got a knife. He's going to stab her in the neck. Oh, my God. And in an anticlimactic fashion, you save the girl. She says thank you, and the bad guy just gets away. And you see how long it took you to beat the level, and you go immediately into the next stage, which is all underground. You can see you got a minecart scene there. Here's a map of the area. You can see all the minecart paths kind of spread throughout a lot of little floating areas. You don't actually control your guy when he's in the minecart, so it's not like there's any jumps or anything you have to avoid. You just kind of sit there and go on the ride. So it's more of a showcase of the technology. They're still kind of showing off the fast scrolling in this game. Now, this level, you actually do have to fight the enemies. Here's one of these cool guys. This is a guy in an alligator costume. The legs are the mouth, and the eyes are on the sides, and the tail's coming out the head. He's in the artwork for the game. Just a lot of fun enemy designs. So in this level, you actually do have to fight the guys because the platform to get out of the area doesn't appear until after you beat them up. So there's a lot of mandatory fights here. And you can see here's one of these really long minecart sequences. Nothing's happening. I mean, you could just put the controller down and do nothing during this point, and he just zings along through a really long, complicated path. If you jump back onto the path, you just instantly reappear in the minecart and keep going. You saw a little tuck and roll move that the guy does there. You can do that to get to some pickups for health restoration and whatnot, but it doesn't really get used that much. All right, so now we're off on a really hilly minecart path to face the best enemy in the entire game, better even than the final boss. Here comes the big reveal. Check it out. It's a black moonwalking breakdancing guy. So here you go. It's the early 90s. Oh, one hit. Poor guy. It's the early 90s, and, who's popular? But Michael Jackson. And so we got a guy in a white outfit doing breakdancing moves and doing moonwalking. And, yep, that's it. That's the only time he appears in the game. He's not in any other levels. He doesn't appear again in this level. You got a one-shot deal. We'll skip ahead to the end of level 2. It's the same kind of deal. There's the dad there, and you jump up, grab him. He says thank you, and the bad guy gets away. And you get your time, and you move on to level 3, which is also the final level in the game. This one's a little bit more complicated. We'll take a look at the layout of the level here. It's, at 90-degree angles. All the little diamond things in there are teleporters. So you don't know where you're going to teleport to. There's a nice little turbine there kind of shooting you up in the air. You have all these TNT walls, so you need to find switches to blow them up. That's pretty much the way this level works. Is you run through, you hit the switch to open up the door, and then you kind of work your way around with the teleporters. Again, you don't really know where you're going to come out, so this is one level where you probably have to consult the map a lot because you can actually teleport backwards and lose some progress. But it's pretty much, just switches and opening doors, and of course, there again, all the enemies respawn, so you probably end up doing some backtracking either on purpose or by accident. Here's a teleporter right here, which goes somewhere else. And there are kind of color-coded areas to help you out a little bit to figure out where you are, but you can tell a lot of the backgrounds look kind of similar, so it's not super easy to tell where you ended up. In addition to aimless wander, I'll show you some of the things they put you up against in this third level. You got these falling platforms, and the controls just aren't really conducive to this kind of precise jumping, so you'll fall and lose progress a lot. Got a long jumping sequence here with platforms moving up and down, and here again, it's just because of the speed that you move. You jump really high and you move fast, so it's hard not to overshoot platforms, and of course, if you do, you're going to be falling back down to the bottom and repeating a good chunk of gameplay. Toward the end of the level, you'll be in this room that's got 5 separate teleporters and no indication of where they will drop you out. And I'll tell you that one of them will drop you into the first room from the beginning of level 3. All the doors will still be open, but you'll have to repeat all of that running through to get back into this room. Fortunately, I've been in there before and I know what teleporter to take, so I picked the right one, which drops you out at the hardest part of the entire game, which is this jumping sequence where you're jumping in between conveyor belts. Some of them are pushing to the left, some of them are pushing to the right. The whole thing's over a bottomless pit, so big danger if you fall down. And this is a long, long sequence of jumps that you have to get through without screwing up, or at least not screwing up too badly. And if you fall, or at least when you fall, which is bound to happen, you have to act quickly, or you risk falling all the way down to the bottom. And that's controller chucking time. Once you make it through all of that, it's decision-making time once again. You've got a room with 3 more teleporters, and you got to pick the right one. So just figure it out. Oh, don't touch that lobster. That's actually a power down. Bananas give you an extra health back. A roast gives you your full health back. And apparently the Bio Force Ape is allergic to shellfish because a lobster will actually knock 1 point off. So just be careful of that. So here we are, headed toward the goal. The final guy in the game is just ahead, and you have some of these odd little platforming segments. So you have a rotating thing that's got spikes on the left and right, and you just have to face off against several rooms of the same little rotating spike thing with no enemies to fight. You got another little spike on the wall there. And we're about ready to head into one of the most anticlimactic final battles in gaming. So there's not a whole lot to it. There's no saying the battles could have been bigger in the final product. So this obviously is a prototype, so it may not be what you would call finished. But in the prototype version, this is what you're going to get. You're going to have this little last sequence, and then you're going to fight the big bad guy in his rocket of doom. There he is. He's getting ready to launch that and kill all of humanity. He knocks you down, and oh my god, he's a palette-swapped version of you. And if you punch him, he dies and the game's over. And you get a potion that turns you back into a regular monkey. And you walk off and you're reunited with your family. Everything's good. The end. No, that's it. The end. There's your score. Good job. 21 minutes. And that was taking some time.
All right, so that was Bio Force Ape, a game that almost defies description. It's oh my goodness. So hopefully you enjoy checking out. Like I said, the game's available for free online. You can just go and download it, try it out in your favorite emulator, and give it a try for yourself. It's a quick game, but I think that you might get a kick out of it. So that's all we have for you this time. So until next time, we'll continue to scour space and time to bring you more Oddities in 2D. He was farting so hard that he was actually breaking the game. He was farting so hard that the game was coming apart. He farted so hard his butt caught on fire and the walls collapsed. He farted so hard that he was able to see the Matrix.